Don't talk. Find Naomi. Those were the last words that came out of Marcus Hale's mouth before he died in her arms. And that single whisper would change everything inside Block D. Before I take you deep into this story, please stay with me till the very end, because what this nurse uncovered inside that prison would not only expose evil, it would save lives. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Now let's begin. Jenna Rivera had worked as a nurse in the Federal Correctional Facility for 10 long years. To most people, she was just a nurse. But to the inmates of Block D, she was hope in human form. The only one who treated them like men, not monsters. That night was different. A fever outbreak had swept through the block, and Jenna had been running between cells all evening. But when Marcus Hale collapsed in front of her, clutching his chest, she knew this wasn't just sickness. It was something darker. He pulled her close and whispered those words. Don't talk, find Naomi. Jenna couldn't sleep that night. She sat at her small kitchen table in her apartment, the city lights flickering outside her window. Her scrubs were still stained from the chaos at Block D, and Marcus Hale's last words kept replaying in her head like a broken record. Don't talk, find Naomi. She whispered it out loud, testing the sound of it, as if saying it might make sense. Naomi Blake. The same Naomi who worked 2 doors down from her. Always smiling. Always quick with a joke. Someone she'd trusted for years. But why would a dying man use his last breath to warn her about Naomi? The next morning at the prison infirmary, Jenna watched Naomi carefully. She moved with her usual calm, checking vitals, giving meds, laughing with the guards. Nothing about her looked suspicious. Still, when their eyes met, Naomi smiled, and for the first time, Jenna didn't smile back. Something in her gut told her that behind that calm face, there was something she wasn't supposed to see. And deep down, Jenna knew one thing for sure. Marcus hadn't whispered that name by accident. 2 days later, Jenna returned to Block D with a heavy heart. Marcus Hale's bed was empty, his chart marked with a single word, deceased. But something about the paperwork felt off. She had filled out his medical file herself, temperature logs, medication doses, blood reports, all carefully recorded. Now, every page was gone. In their place was a clean, new folder with nothing but a single typed note. Case closed. Cardiac failure. Cardiac failure? Marcus had been 39 and healthy before the fever outbreak. It didn't make sense. Jenna glanced toward Naomi's desk. She was there, humming softly, sorting through patient records. When Jenna asked if she'd seen Marcus's original file, Naomi didn't look up. Must have been archived, she said casually. You know how admin handles things. But Jenna did know, and that wasn't how things worked. That night, she went home uneasy. She opened her laptop, typed Marcus Hale's name into the inmate database, and found nothing. No transfer, no burial record, not even a death entry. It was as if Marcus Hale had never existed. And that's when Jenna realized this wasn't just about a sick inmate anymore. Someone was hiding something big. The next morning, Jenna arrived early, before roll call, before the halls filled with noise. The air in Block D felt heavier than usual, like the building itself was holding its breath. She walked into the storage room, wherein used patient charts were kept. The door was supposed to be locked. It wasn't. Inside, rows of boxes stretched to the wall, each labeled by month. She searched for Marcus Hale's name, box after box, nothing. But when she reached the bottom shelf, she found something else. A small brown envelope marked confidential, do not remove. Her heartbeat quickened. Inside were several inmate medical charts, but not just charts. Each had a red sticker labeled organ match beside the inmate's name. Marcus Hale's file was there. Jenna froze. She was a nurse. She knew what those terms meant. Organ match files didn't belong in a prison infirmary. They belonged in hospitals, under strict regulation. A sound startled her, footsteps approaching. She quickly slipped the envelope under her jacket, just before Naomi stepped in. Jenna, Naomi smiled softly. You're here early. Jenna forced a nervous laugh. Couldn't sleep. Naomi's eyes lingered on her for a second too long. Neither could I. Jenna locked her apartment door twice that night. The envelope sat on her kitchen table under the dim light, silent but heavy, like it was watching her. She hesitated for minutes before finally sliding out the papers inside. Medical charts, organ compatibility reports, and photos of inmates she recognized. Men who had supposedly died from illness. Marcus Hale's name was on top. Under organ donor, the word approved was stamped in red. Her stomach turned. She flipped through the next page and froze. Her own signature was at the bottom of the medical clearance form, but she had never signed it. Her hands trembled as realization hit. Someone was using her credentials to authorize illegal procedures. Suddenly, There was a soft knock on her door. Jenna jumped, her pulse racing. She peered through the peephole. No one was there. Just an envelope slid under her door. Inside was a small note written in neat, cold letters. Stop asking questions. Jenna's breath caught. Someone knew she had the files. Someone inside that prison was watching her, even here, in her own home. She sat in silence, the city outside buzzing faintly, as fear crept into her bones. The next morning, Jenna stood in front of her bathroom mirror, staring at her tired reflection. She hadn't slept. Every sound the night before felt like footsteps outside her door. But fear wasn't going to silence her, not anymore. She drove to the prison early, heart pounding against the steering wheel. On her way in, she stopped by a small electronics store across the street and bought a tiny button camera, one that could blend perfectly with her nursing badge. Inside Block D, she acted normal, handing out medication, checking vitals, nodding politely at guards. All the while, the camera recorded everything: the hallways, the infirmary, even Naomi's movements. At lunchtime, Naomi and a guard named Lewis disappeared into the restricted storage room. Jenna followed from a distance. Through the slightly open door, she saw Lewis handing Naomi a small cooler marked medical supplies. But when Naomi opened it, Jenna caught a glimpse of something else: bags of blood, labeled, coded, and sealed. Her chest tightened. She knew then this wasn't just black market medicine. It was organized, systematic, and someone higher up was making sure it stayed hidden. She turned away quietly. For the first time, Jenna realized she was in real danger. By evening, Jenna's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She'd recorded nearly 6 hours of footage. Naomi in the restricted area, the cooler being delivered, guards exchanging sealed envelopes. It was enough to raise questions, if she could get it out. That night, she hid the tiny camera inside her locker and planned to take it home after her shift. But halfway through medication rounds, 2 guards stopped her. "Warden needs to see you," one said. Jenna frowned. "Now? What? Just come with us." They led her to the administrative wing, cold, silent, the smell of bleach thick in the air. Warden Briggs sat behind his desk, expression unreadable. Beside him stood Naomi, arms folded, eyes sharp. "We've received a report," the warden said slowly, "that you've been accessing restricted files. Care to explain why?" Jenna's throat went dry. She glanced at Naomi, who smiled faintly, the kind of smile that said, "We warned you." "I was just organizing patient charts," Jenna replied softly. The warden nodded. "Good. Then you won't mind if we check your locker." Her heart sank. The camera, the evidence, was inside. And in that moment, Jenna realized her secret might already be gone. Jenna's hands trembled as she followed the guards back to her locker. The hallway felt longer than usual, every step echoing with dread. She tried to breathe steady, but her mind was racing, thinking of the tiny camera, the footage, the only proof she had. When they reached the locker room, her stomach dropped. The door was already open. Her locker stood empty. Warden Briggs appeared behind her, his voice calm but cold. "We found what we needed." He held up the small camera between his fingers. "Care to tell me why a nurse would need to film prison operations?" Jenna's eyes darted to Naomi, who was leaning against the wall, watching her like a cat who'd already caught the mouse. "I was documenting medical irregularities," Jenna said carefully. "For internal review." The warden smirked. "Is that what you call stealing state property?" 2 guards stepped closer. Naomi's voice was soft but cutting. "You should have stayed quiet, Jenna. You were good at your job." The guards grabbed her arms. As they dragged her out of the room, Jenna's mind screamed for a way out. She wasn't sure how far this went, but one thing was clear now. This wasn't about saving patients anymore. It was about survival. Jenna spent the night locked inside a cold holding room. No windows, no clock, just the buzz of a flickering light above her. Hours passed. No one came. She didn't know if she'd be charged, fired, or worse. Then, the door opened. Officer Daniels, one of the quieter guards, stepped in. He'd always been polite, never cruel, the kind who offered extra water on long shifts. He placed a finger to his lips. "Don't say a word," he whispered. Jenna froze. He set a small flash drive on the table. "You're not crazy," he said quietly. "What you found is real. They've been running it for years. Prisoners marked as deceased are taken out at night, their organs sold through fake medical transfers. The warden, Naomi, they're all in it." Jenna's heart pounded. "How do you know this?" Daniels looked over his shoulder. "Because my brother was one of them. He never made it to parole." Tears welled in her eyes. He handed her a keycard. "There's a server room in the West Wing. Everything's stored there. Names, records, transfers. Get it and get out." As he turned to leave, he whispered, "You didn't hear this from me." If you were in Jenna's shoes, Would you risk everything to expose the truth? Tell me in the comments below. And if you want to see what happens next, type next in the comments so I'll know you're ready for episode 2.